Welcome back to the Torque Test channel. 2,950 foot-pounds of torque from a battery cordless impact wrench and 2,320 foot-pounds tightening, which is what we often do around here on the channel, forward and reverse. That puts this at the top, the current most powerful, highest spec when it comes to what you can measure about these cordless impact wrenches ever made. According to Makita, at least, the brand, which is why we exist, I suppose. We bought this one ourselves, as always, because you can't take everything you hear at face value these days. No matter your level of skepticism and allegiances, though, have to admit this thing is just cool. It's the type of unboxing that gets all the bros gathered around to watch. So today we're gonna dyno test it versus the other cordless big guys in the market. Do some bolt breakaway testing as well to compare, take it apart to see some unique looking stuff from what we can tell, and rank it on our leaderboards. Anytime you see a number like 4,000 Newton meters on the box, a nice even 4K, yeah, that should do it. You're probably in for a good time. This is the Makita GWT10Z 1-inch drive cordless impact wrench. It's on their XGT platform, so it takes their XGT 40-volt batteries and chargers, and we paid a cool $1,000 for it. About almost 3 months ago now on pre-order, and have been waiting eagerly for them to ship it ever since. This is unlike any other cordless 1-inch impact on the market. I mean, there isn't a whole lot of those to go around at the moment, and we've bought dang near all of them. But all of these Milwaukee Ingersoll Rand are an inline sort of battering ram looking log shaped impact wrench. This is the first I've seen, and in fact first dedicated impact wrench in general, that uses a stacked, built like an SDS drill sort of motor in the bottom, I'm assuming, design to get that overall size length down. And with the extended anvil to help reach into 18-wheel lug nut wells, that's probably a welcome thing for you folks seeing a lot of those. But just chunk factor in general, this still seems to be bringing that, even ignoring the anvil choice between these long versus short. This teal tool is tanky. We're talking 24 pounds, 24 and a half pounds or so. It's also got great front lighting. It sort of took the ring light IR is well known for on their other cordless tools that they didn't themselves put on their 1-inch impact wrench, and Makita incorporated it onto this one. You can even adjust the brightness to several levels. Pretty trick. And while $1,000 in this category ain't bad, that IR being around $1,100 bare, the red guy maybe $850 to $900 these days. Few things about Makita's XGT line in general are cheap these days. To get the most out of this tool, a tool this size, like we will be doing with the M18 12 amp hour forge packs that the numbers you'll be seeing on the dyno are from, we're going to be using their largest battery, and one of the largest batteries in general for non-outdoor power equipment like brands, the XGT 8 amp hour, which at 40 volt compares to like a 16 amp hour 20 volt battery, even larger than DeWalt's 15 amp hour. This was $390 due to that size, that capacity of 21,700 cells, and brings the weight of this guy to 28 and a quarter, almost 28 and a half pounds, which to be fair is still around 1 pound lighter than this guy, but 5 pounds heavier than this one. So let's see how she gets on. We're going to be using this big compares to a 16 amp hour battery in testing, but we'll also be using Makita's new tabless 4/8 amp hour pack we also bought in anticipation of this episode to see how it likes that, and compare that all to how a regular 2.5/5 amp hour battery of this size does towards the end of this episode. Up first is working torque. 5 seconds in an old school standardized test. We found we couldn't reliably test this tool on our normal dyno because it would literally twist the thing out of the jaws of the vise and you lose data doing that type of stuff. Not to worry though, this is why we have this big boy Skidmore here, good for like several times what this tool can likely do. The Ingersoll Rand saddlebag-like battery impact is currently the top scorer in this test in cordless with 1,106 foot-pounds. The Milwaukee getting closer with each new battery tech update, 954 foot-pounds lately. That's not bad at all. Here's the new Makita XGT 1-inch impact wrench. (1,081 foot-pounds). Now, before you grab your pitchforks, there is one thing I noticed, and that's just how fast this impact wrench hits. And Makita, having just amazing triggers in general, they're very progressive and ramp up. Upon consulting the manual, which I mean, that's just fate. Almost never read those. The Makita has a full speed mode. If you hold down the RPM tack button, you can leave the tool in high speed, and then any input from you, the tool just goes balls out. Here's an example of that. $1,205 foot-pounds. Now we're talking. If we're being truthful, this mode doesn't really provide more torque. The RPM and IPM should be the same at their peak. It just sort of cheats the clock here by making that progressive trigger an on-off full button switch. But maybe, possibly, this does provide a nice jump start of current to hit that hammer harder with. We are seeing some mighty early gains so far on the curve. Speaking of the manual, you'll find more modes than you can shake a stick at, per usual with XGT stuff. And here are a few of those. This is bolt mode 3, one setting short of the full beans mode, which in reverse just took things off at full speed, which is nice to use. But in forward, you get 774 foot-pounds, then it stops. And 757 foot-pounds on the next go, and then 771. We're talking a 2 to 3% consistency. That's mega impressive at this end of the impacting tools game. Not something you're often going to see. Bolt mode 2 sees 295 foot-pounds, 296 foot-pounds, 281 foot-pounds. Yeah, still quite good, just at a lower level. It's only at bolt mode 1, this low level of torque, that you're not going to get as consistent. The hardware size is just too large to be hitting something that low and get consistent results. Overall, just impressive stuff to be able to pull this off, though. We felt this is pretty cool. And this is an industry standard test called max torque. This, going back to the 1960s, used to be the number put on boxes, 10 seconds. Let's see what it can do. $1,415 foot-pounds, so under the Ingersoll Rand. And this time I have no more tricks to pull out of the hat. This is simply what it did. Sometimes less than this, but never beating the IR here. It really comes out of the hole looking at these early gains, but then sort of flattens off towards the end of this one. One last chance. We're looking at 15 seconds, the test we came up with, just best case scenario, the best it could do with batteries fresh off the charger. Let's see it. $1,751, just repassing up the Ingersoll Rand here at the end. 1751 over, dang, 1748, basically interchangeable at that torque level, I think. This is a very odd torque curve, but we also think we might know what's going on. And a clue to that is the IPM. This tool advertises an RPM, how fast just the motor spins in free speed, of 1200 RPM, which is not odd. We got others here at 1200 RPM as well. What's odd is the IPM. It's impacting at 1,750 times per minute, and we measure that closer to 1800 IPM, and the competition is 1170 IPM. This can mean one of two things. The motor on the IR is weak and bogging down, or upon taking this thing apart, another thing is going on. Did notice when taking this apart, sorry for the focus here, one of the hex cap bolts was already stripped, just rounded from the factory. That's not great when you're also dealing with Loctite. Inside, you're going to see a couple things. This odd right angle motor design is even more SDS drill than imagined. It's transferring this motor's torque through a right angle gear assembly. Seems strange, but you'll also find that in other large job site cordless equipment, I suppose. But yeah, up front, you're going to find an absolutely razor thin in comparison to a usual impact hammer for a tool of this size. This only weighs just over 6.5 pounds as a full hammer assembly. That's not a lot, the lowest we've seen for a two-hander impact, in fact. It does have an uber wide face, like the diameter of it. Makita, I mean, they're not dummies over there. This is one hack to making more sauce, is putting the dogs of that anvil further out from center, and a little hack for greater mechanical advantage at the cost of tool head diameter, just making the whole thing larger, hitting from further from center, but you do gain some width on the tool. And then multiple springs. 2 springs would already be a shocking discovery, but there's even more, like a preload helper spring in here as well. It's 3 springs on top of each other. Looking at the parts breakdown, you got 14, 15, and 17 here instead of the usual single guy. And here as a compression spring, and of course, compression spring. And this is sort of what we felt might be inside here despite the size of this overall thing, because this curve and 1800 IPM all spell a, we'll call it, more nimble hammer that you hit more often. I personally think this is a result of this motor orientation. If you just measure the drilling torque of any SDS drill, it's also not a mountain's worth of torque from a motor of that size. So you would need a lot of gear reduction, 2-stage likely, to spin up a large mass up front under spring tension. And given this one's high RPM in general, it's not being reduced all that much. I feel this is the size of hammer this design, a right angle drivetrain and motor, ended up being paired best with, and Makita just used straight up hard mode engineering to make it all work. Make it put up a big number using a wide face hammer and triple hammer spring stacked to accelerate and mass rapid fire this thing. This is why you see this crazy steep curve out the hole, this representing being able to tackle jobs that are in the 5, 800, even 12, 1300 foot-pounds worth of torque range faster than any other impact we've tested. It's getting more hits in during the same amount of time than any other is able to do, also aided by using that high-speed button mode. It then flattens out relative to a tool with a larger hammer up front, and then this happens. We believe the IR falls off due to just using simple 18650s, 2 5 amp hour packs, compared to a later tech tool using 16 amp hours comparatively worth of 21700 cells. It's able to just not fall off as much, taking the bragging rights here. Well, I say bragging rights, but there is one tool that's been glaringly absent in our testing so far. While this new Makita just barely topped what we consider to be the best cordless 1-inch on the market, you'll notice we didn't list it as a new record. That's because of this impact, also powered by Makita LXT, their 18-volt packs, and 2 of the spiciest versions of those battery cells we have around here. 2 of them, like the IR uses, this made even more sauce. This also $1,000 Makita flavor like cordless impact we bought off of AliExpress gives you a real shake and bake experience, and well, it weighs a ton as well, 1.5 times more than some of the models here at 36 pounds, but it does deliver in the form of 1812 here by following the opposite sort of formula. Bare bones inside, rather meager motor from what we can tell, and it's just trying its darndest to spin up this hammer, the largest we've ever seen, larger than a gas-powered railway impact hammer assembly, weighing in at 12 pounds in itself. Not quite, but damn near twice the weight of the one that's in the XGT, so there's certainly some engineering going on in this to be within spitting distance of that. Let's see what all that tallies to, in fact. Starting below that other Makita-powered model, the M18 down here, the new XGT gets points in the form of its dyno runs with 121, 142, and 175 points. As a function of performance and weight, the main drawback of these tools, that gets 49.8 points when balancing those 2 factors. The elephant in the room, though, is of course this guy is boasting nearly 3,000 foot-pounds nut busting and 2320 fastening. We saw more like 75% of that today. This is a bit lower than its peers and a rare departure for Makita in any form on this channel, as they usually get into the 90s or spot on at 100% for us. $999, that's fairly normal price-wise, at least for now. 26.3 points, not bad. This all totals 589.1, placing it, beating the odds, in first in cordless. But not by a lot, but still on top. Now, is that fair if this one makes more? I think definitely, yeah. This weighs a lot less, and the insides and design are just night and day. Makita continues this sort of isolated lower half battery compartment, and even double isolates it for vibrations to not only save your battery from an early death, but you feel it as well. Some of it is that hammer, sure, but this is the most comfortable to impact on stuck stuff 1-inch cordless impact wrench of this torque range we've ever used. All the electronics here are potted in place. This has a massive aluminum heatsink coming off the bottom of it to stay cool. Even this independent startup capacitor is located remotely in this little cubby with foam around it to keep vibrations from getting to it. Its planet and sun gears are uber smooth, glass-like low DA finish on them. You got to assume they designed this to work in harsh conditions for a long time, whereas the AliExpress one costs the same for basically a laundry dryer, someone filled with cement sort of operation, and hey, it does work, but no warranty to speak of or money back agreement in terms of buying one of these. Brass tacks though, does it beat the other well-made tools with a warranty here like the Ingersoll Rand? Smaller hammer usually means less dynamic torque, which usually does mean less able to break stuck stuff free, which on this end of the tool sizes is why we do bolt breakaway testing. Here's the XGT in reverse now at around 1,450 foot-pounds, loosening things up versus the others. Fairly close to the Ingersoll Rand, which is to say very good. The IR's heavier hits move things sooner and did by the stopwatch go to 0 about half a second quicker. Now here's 1,750 foot-pounds with the AliExpress guy now included. Ultimately, the brute of an AliExpress rig did do it quickest. Then 2 seconds later, the Ingersoll Rand, then 2 seconds later, the XGT, followed by 4 seconds later for the Milwaukee to complete this. Is it fair to compare a 2-battery Ingersoll Rand versus a single but larger capacity 12 amp hour M18 tool and then versus a 40 volt tool? We all think, yes, they're all advertising torque, not voltage claims, and there's like 4 cordless tools that exist that can even do these things right now. So if you need one of them, you're gonna buy one of these, so comparing them does make sense. But in our opinion, 2 things are true. The XGT doesn't all around beat the existing Ingersoll Rand from looking at all of our data, despite coming in a few years later in some impressive specs. And 2, it's still definitely worth it if you're considering one. It costs less, at least at the moment, and I thought this was going to be more like $1,200, $1,300 under something like an XGT brand. It's made well and will likely be able to do a lot of the same tasks. That is, as we watch what the XGT can do with their latest tabless pack and then their 2.5 amp hour battery, until DeWalt is willing to release their new 60 volt monster, which we've seen leaked images of. Which, who knows, that could change up the whole game. Hopefully we hear more about that soon, as it's sort of been radio silence for some time now. And to see that as soon as humanly possible, click subscribe below, and thanks for watching.